As Taylor Swift once said, everything has changed. Well, not so fast, lady. I would agree to disagree. Listen, guys, it's a really tense time. There's a lot going on. And so today we're going to be pulling out, maybe or maybe not like the Puerto Ricans. I don't know. You're going to have to ask Tony Hinchcliffe. We're going to be taking a bigger picture view of cultural trends, cycles, things, history repeating itself, quite frankly. Everything from, you guessed it, celebrity relationships, the Gisele Jiu-Jitsu moment of our time, even Jenna Dewan, Channing Tatum, to comedy, the Scary Movie franchise coming back, and of course, our really hostile political divide. It is the heat of the moment. Again, not in like a jiu-jitsu kind of way like Gisele, unfortunately. And while times are changing, things are happening fast, it is really intense. Perhaps history does repeat itself. We've been here before, been there, done that, same shit, different day. I don't know. We are going to find out. This is Talk to Me, Taylor.
Deemed the Celebrity Whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touch them. They're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby. She's good.
Taylor Ferber.
Okay, so like I said, it is a really tense time. Like you literally have to be Patrick Starr to not realize this. And so I figured today, this is what I bring to you guys as
Celebrity Whisperer.
I find the best thing of what I'm actually thinking about.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Such never crack. And that there is a brain in there, like I always say. And it's so easy to get caught up. Like I said, it's super emotional. It's super hostile. There's a lot going on. There are high stakes. The election is just in, I think, 5 days right now. And shooting is on Halloween. So yeah, shit is getting spooky. And so I thought, okay, either I can get in the weeds of everything. Like you have podcast battles. You have Trump in a garbage truck being a garbage man. Like,
What a terrible term to use the word garbage. We're garbage.
there's all kinds of shit happening. And I thought, okay, everybody on the internet is just screaming at and over each other into the weeds of all of this. And I thought, have we read this story before? Has this played out before? And what can make us feel a little bit more in such a dysfunctional fucking time? What can make us feel a little bit more at ease? And so there are things that have been playing out simultaneously, like I said, even in the pop culture celebrity sphere, alongside politics and like I said, the really heavy, intense time right now. And I thought, is everything just sort of recycling itself out? Again, like the times are changing really fast. We live in a fast world. We live with these things, phones and technology up and in and around our assholes, basically. Like there's no reprieve. But how much of this is really just the same? Ferris Bueller was onto something, bitch, because life moves pretty fast, but turns out, been there, done that. Same shit, different day, but same shit, same day. I don't know. It's deja vu, Beyonce style. And we're going to get into it now. Okay. So first, I even thought of it like this. I don't want to talk about that. I am gonna grieve and I am gonna mourn and I am gonna get emotional, maybe or maybe not this one moment, but like the sad display of athleticism from my Yankees, okay, in the World Series. Like they choked harder than your browsing moment on Pornhub. And I was watching Game 5 last night, when the Yankees just threw it all away. And I thought, how many times, we're all on the edge of our seats. It's a nail biter. We're anxious. We're so excited to see our teams in the championships every year. And by the way, just reaffirms my thing. Nobody likes a fucking loser. Winning is everything. Everybody likes to win. No participation trophies today. And there were all these things, right? If the Yankees make this comeback, this has never been done in history. And coming back after being down 3-0 in the World Series, da-da-da. And I thought, we're in this moment and it's the pinnacle. And like I said, we're all on the edge of our seats. And I thought, but how many times have we been here? It's next year, it'll be all over again. And the year after that, and the year after that, for all the respective teams who are in and their fans. And, it is kind of, when you think about it that way, it is sort of like tomorrow's a new day, but is it really? And are we just in the time lapse from hell? You know what I mean? But you see, even look at sports, right? And again, like how invested we get every single year in our team coming out on top, like love on top, like Beyonce did not ask for your Kamala endorsement, but thanks. Anyway, okay. But even celebrity relationships, and something that got me thinking about this again, as a very, like, I'll admit, I'm a pretty sad fan. I talk a big game, but like if you asked me to name 5 players on the Yankees, I would choke harder than they did last night in the 5th inning, okay? But with that said, you guys know I'm still like in spirit a ride or die Pats fan. And when I saw the news of Gisele, because Gisele and Tom Brady in pop culture were always just such a thing, such a unit, like a force to be reckoned with. Like they would be out on the field, collecting Super Bowl rings with their kids and a whole celebration. And then they would be at the Met Gala in some like, extravagant thing for a $1,000 plate no one asked for. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying they were such a staple in pop culture as this power couple for so many years. And obviously they broke up in the roast of Tom Brady, and we all know how that story goes. But it just kind of cracked me up. And I was like, and again, nothing lasts forever, which is kind of another point of this episode. Like, sorry to be gothic Barbie, like gothic Elon Musk, like at MSG, again, someone's got to do it. Like, speaking of cycles, like, let's bring back Hot Topic. Thanks. But when I didn't expect her to just like be a nun forever, nor like Tom Brady. Apparently he's hopping and bopping with supermodels, like taking a page out of Leo's playbook. Like, okay. But when I saw she was getting jiggy with it, now knocked up with this jujitsu guy, I was like, wow, like kind of was like the nail in the coffin. It's like, this really is the end of an era. And again, right, like how people and things move on. But not always, not always, because, again, like these cycles that are recycled, like climate change, Green New Deal, all that stuff. Some things repeat themselves, right? And like even with, it's like her past, I'm sure with Tom Brady, because of everything I just said, like will repeat itself. So that to me was just like, wow, I did not see that coming. And again, like maybe just as an invested fan, both in the past, pop culture, all this. Simultaneously you have playing out another kind of couple that was iconic for us millennials was Jenna Dwayne, and not to be confused with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, okay? Leave him and his bald glory out of this. And Channing Tatum, right? They notably starred in Step Up together and, took us away with their dancing skills, just call them Grace Kelly and off they went. And, they were a famous couple. And now it's funny because, like, again, parallel with the Gisele thing, how you see now they've broken up, they've moved on. I actually didn't know that Channing Tatum was dating Zoe Kravitz, and Jenna now has a new fiance, right? But listen, babe, I try not to get too invested in these celebrity couples. Like, I cherish my time and my mental health enough to not be bogged down with this jibber jabber. But again, I did find this super interesting because, it's been so long, and, they were like Tom and Gisele were another iconic power couple in Hollywood. They've broken up, moved on. And so now it came out that Zoe and Channing Tatum broke up, and Jenna's new fiance is trolling Channing Tatum. So, again, it just got me thinking about this whole thing. It's like, sure, but Gisele maybe knew turning the chapter, as Kamala Harris would say, like on something or other, apparently. But sometimes things just come back in a cyclical way and haunt us like All Hallows Eve after all. The cycles that just won't quit. Speaking of is news in pop culture that I actually was just tickled by. And that was the return of Scary Movie, guys. No, I know. Can you believe it? Like, talk about Halloween seance. I may as well have done a hex to bring this back from the grave, like, for the love of God. But when you talk about cycles, we've talked about comedy a lot. And how, like, even that, like, it used to be the Wild West and everything taboo and nothing was off limits. And now it's like, God forbid you even blink. God forbid you even say Tony Hinchcliffe's name. I think that's what it is. And there you are in cancel jail and you're a Nazi. Surprise. No, but it's obviously so uptight, right? And it was so interesting to see this news. So the Wayans brothers, who are fucking comedic geniuses, are reuniting to write Scary Movie 6, and it's going to come out next year. They said, we're hoping to have a lot of fun and all this. And when I think Scary Movie, like the classic spoofs, at least for, our generation, for millennials, I mean, guys, we were like 9 when this came out, and I remember it was like the thing. It was the thing to do to, forget this friendship bracelet, macaroni bracelet shit, whatever Taylor Swift and her friends and bands are doing now, okay? The thing to do is try to sneak and watch Scary Movie so our parents wouldn't know. And looking at it as an adult, right, it really was quintessential comedy because it was so politically incorrect. It made fun of a cultural touchstone, which was horror, which is and was horror and scary movies. But it literally gave no fucks and was so inappropriate and always went there. Like, it had, fact check it, ask ChatGPT, it had 0 fucks to give. Even when you think about some of the scenes, like, do you remember the doorknob on the mansion with like these huge balls? Or like the baby dick scene in the locker room where you literally see the guy's baby dick? Or even in the, like, now it would be like, that's dick shaming, that's ball shaming, that's something, right? Not shaving, which we should absolutely advocate for. No, shaming, okay? Even the iconic opening scene with Pam Anderson and Carmen Electra, where the villain from Scream, or the one they're making fun of, stabs Carmen Electra, who's doing like the slow-mo run in the tit and like pulls out her fake silicone boob, right? Like, again, you would never get away with any of that today. And I thought, wow, okay, so they're saying they're going to have fun with this. Let's have at it, but how much fun are they going to have really? And so when you think about all of, even again, these cycles, right? It has been such a huge conversational topic of the pendulum swinging with all of this stuff, with cancel culture and sure, relationships, again, cultural trends, how we operate, politics, right? It goes one way, it goes the other way. I mean, Jesus, we have whiplash. We see it with politics every other fucking day. And with this, a big conversation has been, the pendulum's going to shift with comedy the other way. It used to be, again, the days of, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, like when anything could go. And now you have OGs like Jerry Seinfeld walking back his comments, God forbid, saying it's become too PC. I mean, the horror. So that just goes to show the environment we're still in. So all that to say, I've been waiting for, the pendulum to swing the other day. Josh Duhamel spoke about it with me on this show when he released his very politically incorrect movie last year that hit every taboo topic, which is why it was so refreshing. But everyone's waiting for that moment to break, and you've had moments here and there. You had the big Dave Chappelle controversy that was, with the whole trans issue on Netflix. That was going on. Even like the roast of Tom Brady. People were like, oh my God, I see a glimmering hope of light, and that somebody can make a joke that is like at least 5 out of 10 on the funny scale these days. Like, thank you for this beacon of hope, right? Like, there have been little pops here and there, but nothing that has really opened the floodgates in terms of like returning back, so to speak, and the pendulum swinging the other way from this PC culture. And so with that, maybe, just maybe, the Wayans brothers will hear my prayer and the Scary Movie franchise will bring it back. I swear to God, if they do not, if this shit is watered down and PC, I will pick it outside every AMC, just like a dehydrated pro-Hamas protester at Columbia, and I will just be ruthless and relentless like them in my fight. And just like them, I will stop at nothing to get my vegan, gluten-free meal provided by AMC, or in their case, the campus. You know what I mean? So like, we're really in this fight together, guys. But this all brings me to the glory hole. It actually is more of a glory hole than glory of our political landscape and situation, and in comedy. So the Tony Hinchcliffe controversy, right? That kind of like touches on all of this in a really, really toxic, convoluted, and fucked up way. And so here we are to dissect it all. What I would give to be a high school junior dissecting a frog with my high school crush, like nearly barfing. But no, we're going to dissect this shit show instead. So By the way, do you guys like I just hopped right into this. I didn't even like call me like, the wild thornberries, the traveling wilburys, because this is obviously not in my studio. We're taking the show on the go, baby. And, I have my traveling set here. So with that said, I have been on the go. Talk to me, Taylor. She's here, there, she's everywhere. Just look under your bed tonight and I might be there, but you are not going to get a glory hole or a happy ending. I don't know if any of us are actually going to get a happy ending, and that just may be the theme and the takeaway from this episode. No. So, all right, here's the deal. And I did a little segment on this on my Instagram and socials yesterday, just because it's literally blown up the fucking internet, and maybe it did implode Puerto Rico itself. I don't know. Basically, he's a roaster. He's a comedian. His show is called Kill Tony. So again, let's take this with a grain of salt. But Tony Hinchcliffe, he's a 40-year-old comedian. He went out at Trump's really sort of iconic Madison Square Garden rally that just happened, right? And so this whole thing has everybody up in arms because nobody really knows what his play was here. He made jokes at the expense of, Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans, saying there's like a floating island of garbage in the sea. It's Puerto Rico, making fun of, Jews and Israel, Palestine, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right.
And of course, you have the left and liberals. You have AOC, you have Kamala, Tim Walz, like literally all of them having an in memoriam basically to life over this. And they love this. I mean, they just like salivate over this, okay? They circle jerk to this because it gives them a reason to be like, right, this is what Trump and his supporters think of all of you. They think that you're garbage. They're racist, they're white supremacists, they're fascists, they're all the things, right? So they love this. They're like, it's so disappointing. You even have comedians speaking up about it, which is like, dude, what is your excuse? Like, I get that they're politically motivated and driven and they will take anything, but like, comedy's comedy. To which Tony Hinch, because this became a huge controversy, right? As if, by the way, see, my mic is doing a back handspring, Simone Biles style. As if he were actually saying that all of Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans are trash, but B, that he represents and reflects Trump and everybody who is a Republican or conservative. Like, it's just total nonsense. But sure enough, you have conservatives and Trump sort of distancing themselves. And I did watch it, and I do think that conservatives were like, okay, like, who is this guy? Like, she doesn't even go here, like pissed, right? Because they're like, okay, now this guy threw us under the bus and now it's a whole big thing and we don't even think this and he doesn't represent us, right? But like I said, you have, Democrats just sealing the envelope, sealing the deal that like, this is just so hurtful and this is what they think of you and it's just so bad. Meanwhile, you have actually Puerto Ricans like doing a whole parade, Brigade Macy's Thanksgiving Day style for Trump in Puerto Rico. So, it's just become this whole, convoluted mess. And I agree with Tony. He came out, and I said this fresh, hot off the press, but it was like a live stream that AOC and Tim Walz did.
When you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
And Tony was basically, again, just condemning this and saying how awful and how hurtful and blah, 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 that it was. And Tony was like, guys, like, no one has a sense of humor, and also, like, change your tampon, basically. And I have to say, I agree with him. This is where both sides have really sort of lost their sense of humor. And again, I said this at the time. Was it the best timing? Because it is so tense and heightened with high stakes. People are really emotional. People are really anxious. Like, maybe not the place and time. But with that said, jokes are jokes. And so for the left to run with it as if, like, again, this represents exactly who they are, what they think, he meant it at face value, is absolutely absurd. And again, like, comics who are like, oh, this is so hurtful. It's like, bro, you guys are never going to claw out of this 6-foot under grave that we are in. It's just insane. And so from this, right, you have even more fallout. You have Trump now riding on in and on basically a garbage truck because Joe Biden, maybe it was inadvertent subconscious, burn book motive to sabotage Kamala Harris, but literally the day after says, I think that, the only garbage that I've seen, are Trump supporters.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
First of all, and it's just become all this whole circus and theatrics and antics. So now, just like Republicans and Trump distancing themselves from this comic, you have Kamala Harris distancing herself from Joe Biden. And I just want to say, to say that as a comic is one thing. Again, it's comedy. Let's take it for what it is. But the fact that you have the U.S. president, the sitting U.S. president saying this about citizens of his nation is deplorable. And further, right, what's really unfortunate about this is, yes, of course you have Trump who's hurtling insults. It's what he does, right? Even the fact, it's kind of funny, but with the Tony Hinchcliffe thing, how he's like, I never heard of this man. I don't even know what he did. I don't even know what the jokes were, whatever. It's you don't think that this was vetted on some level? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, but just the idea that he's whatever, and I don't have any, I don't even know. I don't know her. I don't know her, just Pariah, scary moment. All Trump wants for Christmas is to not know this man. He'll throw insults too, right? How Kamala Harris is just, has a low IQ and is so incompetent and unintelligent and is so stupid. But I have to say, this is where, with all of this, where the left is really has been in the wake of this, so vicious and vindictive, in a way that's really, I think, unacceptable, just to put that out there, and hypocritical, right? Because you have Kamala Harris, whose whole thing, right, when she's not repeat, a literal, she is Smart House. Do you remember talking about throwback? She is a lady from Smart House who's about to malfunction, just saying the same things on repeat that have nothing to do with the other, scrambled up words that are no coherence, and I'm nothing was even just said. What just happened? Saying everything and nothing at all. But the fact that she really makes everything about Trump instead of lady, what are you actually going to do for us? What is your policy? And even that becomes so convoluted because, again, as you know, it's turning this page, that page, like a disoriented librarian. I don't even know. There's no clear vision. It all just falls in and eats itself, and none of it makes sense. But one of her really big talking points right now is how Trump just and his base fuel the flames of division, and how, detrimental it is, yet in the same breath literally goes so far, especially on the heels of the Tony Hinchcliffe thing, literally goes so far as to call Trump and his entire following, Hitler and Nazis and fascists. I'm not kidding.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I literally saw news segments that showed footage of the Madison Square Garden rally, which, by the way, had Jews and Latinos and Black people, all kinds of, to the most vicious, arguably one of the most vicious, ruthless European dictators who called for the death of millions and millions of people. And to insinuate that not only he, but the entire rally and the entire race, and it's not just Kamala, right? It comes from the top down. So it's all these news organizations. I think that is really disgusting. And I think that is so irresponsible. And especially when it's in the same breath as just fueling the flames of division. It's did you temporarily become a mute? Did you temporarily become a mime? And Helen Keller, are you not just hearing what you're saying?
She talks in gypsy curses. When they ask her something, she'll be like, my grandma said that a hive of bees is still bees if you bury it. And you're like, what the
That to me is really, quite crazy. And so, yeah, with all that, it's just all become so convoluted. Again, to take a bit, which of course it's politics, it's nasty, that's what they're going to do. But to take a bit from a comedian who conservatives are pissed, they're like, who is this man who infiltrated this operation, who does not represent us? To take that, run with it, call this bit when you're trying to fight for unity, call them literal fascists, which is like a representative of the most evil, maniacal figures in history. Meanwhile, you have this like turning the page nonsense and this like bootleg monarchy where they just appoint her. It's all so convoluted. But don't forget that even if you are middle of the road or conservative, that it is too Trump again. So you think about the journey. I know we all need extensive psychotherapy paid for by legal immigrants. Thank you very much. But between the 2016 election, between everything that's gone on, the pandemic, the BLM riots, like it's just been so much. And yet here we are, where it's like you would think that everything has changed so much. We've come so far. And yet, again, we're stuck with the corrupt robots, Stepford wives of the left, and Trump with no fresh perspective, leadership, vision. So how far, like, yes, we are traveling in space and time. Debatable. I don't even know. It's debatable. But how so many things in these cycles really just remain the same. Even when you think about technology, right? Because this feeds into my last point here in the bigger picture, is sometimes I wonder, and I remember talking about Lake Bell on my show about this, who's a big actress, and we talked about how technology is so detrimental to not only like ourselves and our kids and, you know, the political divide, and you have anxiety and depression and all kinds of problems, right? Because we're bombarded constantly. And so I asked her, like, were times always this tense? Were times always this tough? Or I think technology is a big part of it because we can't escape it. Like, it is on our fucking heads 24/7. And she actually argued, I would say that there's always been strife. There's been war-torn moments, countries. There's been, depressions. There's been protests, riots. There's been conflict, there's been divide. Like, this is nothing new. And I have to say, while I really am an adamant believer that technology has made it worse and has expedited this and has given us no sense of relief in this godforsaken place, thinking about it now, it's like maybe she's kind of right. Or I'm gonna leave you something to think about. Or the fact that humanity and human nature, right, that we've always kind of been this way. And that's something like I've thought about, right, with all of this, because I'm watching this side, I'm watching MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, and I know you guys feel it too. It's all so overwhelming. Put that on the tab too. Put that on the tab for whatever Kamala says she's going to pay for. Okay, is a week retreat for all of us at the fucking spot. But taking a step back, pulling out, looking at the bigger picture and going again, instead of getting into the weeds and getting frustrated by this and how don't they see the double standard with this, or how don't they see this is wrong, or the hypocrisy with this, really thinking again, has it always been this way? Has it always been this tense? And again, we would argue, because we're also so fucking self-absorbed, that it's never been like this, right? It's never been this divided. And I would think it is. Like, you can't even talk to family members, never mind your neighbors. People, relationships, family, loved ones have been torn apart. Forget politics. You can't even disagree about anything anymore, right? So it definitely is heightened. However, are we so narcissistic? Are we so in it that we think it's just us? Or does we don't know. We've never lived before. Unless you're Tuck Everlasting, in which case, bitch, good fucking luck. Unless you're Edward Cullen, like, tell us the secret sauce, or don't, like, off us out of this place. But I would argue that every generation was like, oh no, it was worse then. It was been like this in my generation. It was going back and back and back and back, right? Because they lived it. So let's take it way far back just to show you how, maniacal and toxic and tribal we really are. So let's take this shit back to the 1800s, because again, this is nothing new. Like the Purple Wednesday Addams hamburger at Burger King that I'm not sure anyone asked for. Like, maybe it's reinventing the wheel, but this is not, okay? We have seen, like I said, we have seen this story before in the form Before there was Kamala and Trump, there was Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. So Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were really tight during the Revolutionary War. But then what happened? They became political rivals. In 1800, the election specifically was really intense. It was hostile. It was pretty brutal. And it's funny because all those years ago, they kind of like hurled the same insults at each other. So Thomas Jefferson, he would be like what was the early form of the Republicans, right? Which was called the Democratic Republican Party. And John Adams was what would be more of like what would be the early Democratic Party, the Federalist Party. And they would throw insults at each other, like accusing the other of being radical or monarchical. And they actually didn't speak for 12 years. And what happened? But the power of the pussy prevails. That is another lesson from today's episode, kids, is that, the one true beaming hope in this world, the power of the P, do not underestimate. But Abigail Adams actually kept correspondence and kept in touch with Thomas Jefferson all those years, and ultimately led to the two being able to reconcile their differences. With that said, we can do all of the introspective work and all the self-help books and all the think and grow and all the stuff. But when you really look at how we are, how we operate, how things cycle out, how trends cycle out, like I said, how they are recycled. And in a more kind of bleak way of thinking about it, or maybe not, depending what you take away from this and how you look at it, is will generations after ours look back at us and be like, oh, whatever, like it was so distant, it wasn't that bad. Meanwhile, we're in it, right? Like living hell, purgatory, like Beetlejuice's house come to life in our day-to-day. So with that is why I wanted to give you guys a big picture, because it feels really overwhelming right now. And so, just call me Dr. Phil. But I don't know about you. I personally feel like being able to zoom out like that and not get so caught up in the details actually allows a little reprieve. Knowing that, it's a moment in time. We've been here before. We're probably going to be here again. And it just is what it is. Make it feel a little less heavy. Make us hopefully see it in a bit of a lighter way and take it with a grain of salt. And give us a little clarity, And by the way, with the grain of salt, I will take all of this and I will take the stiff drink I need with or without salt, but make it a double and make it stiff. Just know it's tough times, it's tense times, but you're not alone. And you know what? The ancestors in the 1800s in their grave this All Hallows Eve, they feel you, they feel seen, they relate, they got your back.